Hey, welcome to Welcome Home Radio, April 22nd, where real estate lending and learning all together comes together. Mortgage market update for April 22nd. We all received some great news that the Senate passed the PPP or Payroll Protection Plan stimulus yesterday. That comes with $322 billion going to small business so they can meet payroll. The market is trying to rebound this morning based on this news, which is just wonderful. The original PPP program faced a critical issue for small businesses competing with big business with the relationships to banks, making the big business priority. 100% of the 322 billion is carved out for small business to meet their payroll, to stay afloat. The MBA released their mortgage application numbers. Surprising everyone, purchase requests rose 2%. Now, year over year, they're down, but this could be an indication that we have bottomed out on purchase applications and we'll see growth in this area. Of course, refis still make up 3 of every 4 applications at 75%. The FHFA, or the Federal Housing Finance Agency, released their HPI, or Home Price Index, which measures home price appreciation on single family homes with conforming loan amounts. Home prices rose 0.7% in February. A year over year is 5.7 year over year. Of course, this is all before COVID-19, but shows a very strong housing market prior. We expect home prices to take a hit due to jobless and lack of demand, but being at 5.7% year over year provides a lot of cushion and may prevent the gains from going negative. And mortgage-backed securities continue to trade sideways, giving us a fairly stable rate through today. And of course, I see it throughout the next few months. I think this is very strong for our industry to rebound. So all positive on that front. Today at Welcome Home Radio, your real estate lending and learning show, we're discussing today's pandemic and the impact in many areas concerning you. These topics will range from home buying, selling, renting or leasing, what happened to non-QM or jumbo loans, and now is the time to fix my credit or do I save money? Also, if you have a topic you would like to discuss, please add it to the chat or the live comments, and we will try to get to it as well. And of course, on our show today with us, we've got my wonderful co-host and partner, Tom. How are you? It's great to see you, sir.
I am very good. I am very well. Thank you for asking. It's nice to see you shaved today. That's even more impressive, I think.
You're just seeing the blonde hair coming through. And by the way, our other host.
Blonde? Did you say blonde? You said blonde, right?
Well, it is a little grayer.
Oh, okay.
And of course,
specific.
Hey, I just want to welcome head monkey butt of KVGI Radio, Mark. Welcome today from Michigan. Hope things are all wonderful. You were fighting the woodpeckers earlier today, I believe.
Yeah, I was talking to Blair up here earlier. We got on the show and I looked out my window and I heard a noise and he heard it too. And it knocked pretty hard. And I went outside, went around, and it ended up being a woodpecker hitting on the house. So
there you go.
It kind of spooked me. You know, I was like, wait a minute, I'm 2 stories up. What's knocking on my window? And
and of course, Alan is trying to get in. He says, Mark, he doesn't have the link, or he's texting me. So
he's almost in. I see him in right now, but he came in and got back out. So I don't know where he went.
Well, we're going to get this show started anyway. Hey, Tom, give me some insight to what you see. I mean, the market today, as I look at it, my goodness, mortgage-backed securities are up 17 bips. I mean, the S&P's recovering after the drastic news about oil trading below zero. Is it just due to the fact that the Senate voted on that PPP program, or what are we seeing here?
Well, as is always the case, we see that Wall Street is pretty emotional with how they do any of their decisions.
Yeah.
So emotionally speaking, I would have to say that the assistance program passed by Congress is, and I didn't see this.
Only the Senate. Only the Senate.
The Senate passed it. Okay.
Only the Senate. Tomorrow is the vote for the House.
I was just about to double check that factor because, of course, it has to go through the House as well. And so the markets to react to news like that is just typical of how our markets are. If I was, and I have a good friend that's a Brown graduate that basically retired 20 years ago because he knew the stock market. He's run hedge funds and that type of deal. But he keeps track of all that stuff still to this day, and his own personal investments. And, his reaction is pretty much that, como si, como sa, this is just one of the passings. We're not back to 29,000 level with the Dow Jones. And so at 23,000, you're still a 30% offer as far as your investments if you had those in that. So the whole recovery period, and he pointed this out, like he said, in 2007 and 2008, it took about 8 months to hit bottom, 10 months to hit bottom. We're not at probably the bottom of the market at this juncture, but it took 5 years to recover. So these things are again kind of fits and jerks that the market does. I know everybody wants to be optimistic, so I'm not going to throw snow on their parade. It's just the fact is these markets cycle through these circumstances, and because they cycle through, we would be yet to see, I think, the housing market hit. Now, keeping interest rates or having interest rates remain low, that's one of the hopes and greatest things that the Fed, takes charge of or wants to feel like they're taking charge of. So look who joined us, Alan, and his hat, his little KW hat. It's like he's here, but maybe he doesn't. Oh, wait, he's about to speak.
I don't know. No,
maybe he's not about to speak. It's a great picture of Alan, though, so we love that.
Hey, Steve, we're glad you're here. You're glad you joined us today. And if, again, you have a comment or want to ask a question, put it in the live comments. We'll be sure to reach out. But, okay, that's a great market update, and we kind of see some things, but I don't see refis are going strong. They're 3 of every 4 applications.
If you still have a job and you still are in that circumstance where you've got a job, that it's very important to be able to go out and get your money out of your house, perhaps, because, again, one of the things that we don't really do as Americans, we don't have a real policy of keeping cash savings, emergency funds around. And that is our source where our emergency funds sit, is in an asset that you would otherwise have to sell. But fortunately, there's the ability to get lines of credit. Now, I know that a lot of the conditions on those are beginning to get a little bit tougher to meet because they're going to check up until the moment they fund that loan that you're still employed, that there's no change in status as far as a furlough. Furlough does not count as employment. Furlough is you're not employed.
Yes, and that is so critical that you bring that up. Is there's still opportunities to do refinances, purchases, but it is critical to understand your job situation and know that they will check the day of or the day right before you close. And I find it real interesting. Title companies closing. Tom, I don't know if you're experiencing this, but I have yet to be able to attend a single closing yet due to the restrictions. I meet with my clients out in the parking lot real quick, but it's an interesting process as we see the industry change through and work through this. Hopefully, Alan can get joining with us. But
Mark, he's joined us a couple of times. It's just he's going incognito today.
Well, I understand, but hey, Mark, I appreciate you joining us today.
With the internet here.
There we go. There he is.
Stop talking bad about Alan Blair. I told you not to talk bad about him.
Hey, I do want to. I want to take our head monkey butt time, and we're so blessed to have you on, Mark. But give us some of your perspective. You just made a major change in your home address.
Yes.
And what impact are you seeing from Texas to Michigan? Give us some of your insight to how the response is and so forth. Can you give us something?
Yeah. So, the people that are here, I think they're just as nice and friendly as people in Texas. A lot of people here have a lot of big heart. I've noticed driving down the road. I've noticed going into the retail shops, the few that I've gone into, I've noticed people waving at you. I'm 15 miles away from town. I do have a neighbor that's directly across the street from me, about a half a mile to a mile. So I would only see him if he comes out to the road or if I go out to the road. But I saw him the other day. First time we waved from 500 feet and tried to talk from that distance. And I've gone to a few stores. People are just doing what they need to do. They are going out. I've seen a few, let's call it 20, 30% where they're going out and they're buying things they don't need to buy just to get outside and get into the places. And I've seen one day I've gone to Lowe's to buy some stuff to fix to my house, actually repair my house. And I've noticed some people, 100 people in there just lollygagging, running around, trying to just buy things they don't really need, just trying to get out of the house. And then the next day I go in there and it's nothing but contractors. The roads are pretty bland. I've seen nothing but contractors and maintenance trucks and workers. I haven't really seen a lot of retail people driving around. A lot of people with masks. A lot of people, every store has some kind of protection, which I think that's kind of interesting. And I think that's going to continue moving forward. You're going to see, like Home Depot, for example, they have all plexiglass in front of you and the person that you're going to be at the register. They've gone as far as putting little plastic films on the keypads and they're wiping them down all the time. They're pre-wiping sanitized carts as you walk into the retail places, and that's kind of cool. But there are some mistakes that are still being made. I've noticed this at another retail store where they were getting the carts ready, and the young girl that was wiping the carts down was using the same rag, wiping all the carts down. I'm like, it's not a wet rag. It's not a sanitized rag. It's just a rag, and she's just wiping the handles down. I'm like, you're not doing anything. All you're doing is spreading germs from one to the next to the next to the next. And but I didn't have to say anything, and somebody caught it. And then all of a sudden they were like, okay, well, let's get the girl some wipes. And then the next thing I know, I'm at the register and the girls changed the whole policy. So it's what I'm seeing really is people just getting along and just dealing with what they have to deal with. It's the same across the country. What's sad is that I just moved here and I go to town. It's like a ghost town. There's 20 businesses out of 400 open. And because everything here, for the most part, is retail, which a lot of that means it's non-essential. And so you don't have as many, like in Frisco or in Dallas, you don't have 1,000 restaurants. You have 200 clothing stores and maybe 20 restaurants and maybe 10 fast foods. And the fast foods are the only ones that are open. So, but I've done both. And I noticed that Texas is different cities were doing different things. Alan just left us. He just popped in and maybe I should hit him.
Well, I'm glad it's a good adjustment for you. I know, but one of the things I wanted to get to with all of us is that we've adjusted to how business is going to be moving forward. My wife works for Frisco ISD, but she's now permanently allowed to work from home. And that adjustment has made a very positive to her, because now going in, like they say, a tank of gas lasts 3 weeks now, or 4 weeks for her. It's very positive things. I think we're seeing several positive things. Mark, you moved up there to Michigan for your spouse, if I understand, right, and flexibility. Is she working from home? Is she remote on everything? So
she's been working remote for, I want to say, around 18 years out of the 27 years that she's been into the home mortgage and financial industry with a very large company. And they have, I don't know how many, 30,000 employees, 40,000. I don't remember how many employees they have, but a very large percentage of them worked at home already. What they had to do is actually say, well, we're not going to let any employees go for the rest of 2020. We're going to keep them all. But that means that if you are a non-essential and you are in an office and you require to be in an office, we are now going to send you home. And they actually, first time in the company's history, they allowed people to go home and get their computers to their office and bring it home. So you're talking about security for a large company? Well, that just went out the door because nobody can control what their Wi-Fi and their internet and everything at home is, but they're allowing them to get in VPN. They're allowing them to work from home. She hasn't seen any slowdown. The slowdown for her as a project manager is other departments are kind of slowed down a little bit, but the refi, the getting new homes and the changes of things, they're all the same. Nothing's changed.
Yeah.
But the fact that she's moved to Michigan just means that in the future, if the company was to change and you had to go back in, she's in a fortunate area that there is no location around here. So she'd have to continue working from home.
Yeah.
So it's not a big change for her. She's enjoyed it.
So Tom, I want to bring you up. You've actually been able to move your business, learning, back to home, doing it remotely. You've made some major adjustments. Is that correct?
Well, as you probably may or may not be able to see behind me, I've got my whiteboard for my students.
The infamous whiteboard.
I've learned how to use my infamous whiteboard. And I found out I can't use all my different colors. I can only really just use black and white. So that's a real bummer. Hey, David, how you doing?
Yeah, David. David's bringing up right now.
Includes maybe.
I'm sorry, Tom.
Towards that. That's how I was headed towards that direction. I think David's got a real legitimate point here that, Champion School of Real Estate, fortunately, really hasn't missed a lick with regards to my class yesterday was 100 students.
Wow.
I've had some of the largest classes I've ever had. And of course, it's the online format takes the ability for them to come into a classroom. So, certain people are geared towards that online learning format and they've already embraced it and they know it. Whereas somebody like myself who has not used it in the past, I'm having to make adjustments to have the engagement I would have in a classroom. And that's tough to do. It's hard to, you have to sometimes scare everybody and you have to use little sock puppets. So I'll use, hello, how are you doing today? Oh, I'm doing fine, and then do my role play stuff with sock puppets. So there's having to make an adjustment to that I hope are working, that I hope will engage people. But this is a different world with regards to the online learning. And going back to David's comment here, the thing I was taken most with was my son who lives in Cleveland. He's a at-home dad, and he's teaching his kids for the last part of the year. They're all going to go through the end of May as far as learning at home. And he was sitting there doing a lesson with his son the other day, and I thought, no, don't hit my grandkid. Don't hit my grandkid. Because, he was sitting there, okay, he was telling him, Eli, you got to hit the 0. You got to hit the 0. And Eli's hand got closer and closer, and then he pulled it back. And suddenly I realized my son is going through these things that are teaching our folks. And you mentioned Frisco ISD. Obviously, I'm here in Coppell ISD. Yep. That our educators are now being challenged with to the nth degree regarding them being put in people are getting a feel for what the teaching aspect really looks like, that it's so much more than babysitting a kid 8 hours a day. It is learning, engagement, it's entertainment to some degree, and then of course it's discipline and teaching people, teaching kids, the right way to do things and the discipline necessary to do that.
Well, I think it's very impressive that corporal punishment and prayer has come back to school so quickly after the parents have to go through.
There's no corporal punishment in my son's house, but Definitely a lot of prayer.
Hey, we want to say hello to every Joe, David, Steve, and everyone else that's out there. If you want to leave a comment or a topic that you want us to touch on, please. We are discussing today the pandemic, real estate, home life, what we can do. One of the things I think we've said is home sales, buying, refinancing is still going on. But what should we be doing during this time? What should we be doing to help us? If you're in an apartment, if you're in lease, what can we be doing better? Is it working on credit? Is it saving? Tom, you said it earlier. We don't have an emergency fund. I would say most Americans, less than 5%, save 6 months worth of, or even 3 months emergency fund. They live paycheck to paycheck. So I hope we're taking the time to learn to start saving, working on our credit, as well as working on that emergency fund, so that when the opportunity, because I don't know how you believe, Tom, but I believe this market, when we get back to at least a 50%, and I'm never saying we're going back to normal. There is no normal anymore. The new normal we're going to define. I think we're going to really work hard at that. I think the American people want to work. But I think energy and I think real estate are going to lead the way to that recovery. And I think opportunities there for realtors. I think with 2.9 million forbearance. Hey, Alan, how are you?
We're having hard. I don't know what's going on with the internet here today. It's usually lightning fast, and right about 10 minutes to 12, you just all kind of went hooey on me. So anyway,
is somebody on Netflix?
Yeah, I wish.
So what can we be doing during this time that is challenging, but also a chance to take a step back, to readjust, to re-aim? Right now, I'm going to tell you credit repair, that industry has seen an explosion on success on repairing credit, because those factoring companies and those medical businesses or whoever, they don't have the staff to challenge, and those 30 days go by. Guess what? They're not giving any more leniency. That trade line goes away. Credit repair is a great part to be doing right now if that's what you're needing. Would you agree or understand? Does that make sense?
Well, from the standpoint, you hit upon like 4 or 5 different topics here. So to go back and kind of trace back to where do we begin if in our households, I know that my personal experience is that, my spouse here cleans everything. Everything is in order. Everything has been put into socks are in the right color, from black to brown to white to the seasonal socks I wear for Christmas. Shirts are done that way. The top of the refrigerator is clean for the first time in 10 years. Everything in our house has been made orderly. And I think that's what people are doing with this time, hopefully, that they're filling in those gaps with, well, what do I need to do in my life? Oh, I've had this credit issue hanging over my head for the last 6 years, 4 years, 2 years, and this is the time to get my house in order. And I'm praying that, most Americans are taking this time because, even myself, I'm teaching 9 out of 11 days here. But even during this period of all this work that I have still left to do, I realize that at home, because I am home, there are tons and tons of projects. It's like Mark mentioned earlier. I was going to call him Monkey, but I want to, but still. Mark mentioned earlier, that these things, it's finally time for us to get our house in order. And if we do that, I think it'll be that much better for us as an end result. I think we'll be stronger as Americans and in our relationships and with our kids, because our kids are getting to see us, what we do on a daily basis. And they're right there present And it finally gives us, and it's kind of in a weird, strange way, a mixed blessing, because I know that by seeing my family and my daughters come back home from Mexico City, where she was doing missionary work, and having her around, it's just like a joy. You suddenly realize that these people that are so intimate in our lives are the biggest blessing that are given to us in our lifetime. And to enjoy it and take advantage of that, I think it will make us stronger. So, again, my take is that we're getting our house in order, that we're getting it to the point where
I would agree.
We're doing things that hopefully, cross your fingers and stick a needle in my eye, hope to die. Yeah, the whole 9 yards. We're taking measures to really, really go forward with the best possible thing. And just like Mark has been doing, I mean, he's training his beard now, so that's going to be really good. He'll have a Fu Manchu when we get back together eventually.
Well, I agree with Tom. What's kind of interesting, because we moved. Our first impression of change was making a change for our family. We started decluttering. We started throwing things away. We started realizing things that we didn't use 5 years or 10 years or 3 years. And then what we also found is we did it again. So we went through it, then we moved, got in it, and then we're like, okay, we'll take a closet, for example. How many T-shirts do I need? How many jeans do I need? How many things do I need? We just started organizing everything. But I'll tell you, the most critical part for me is two things. One, I've honestly have not had a retirement or any kind of time off. So right now, this has been actually really good for me, because I don't have to worry about getting up early in the morning. I don't have to worry about going to bed late or early. I can do whatever I want. I'm more flexible now than I ever have been, because I'm taking that time to breathe for a second. But that led to the one most important thing that I haven't done in probably, I hate to say it this way, but probably 10 to 15 years. And that's organizing my financials. I have gone through every single account. I've made sure that every single account has my correct address, my correct phone number. My credit has the same things. I've noticed things I didn't change 5 years ago. I noticed things in my business didn't change 3 years ago. I just went and organized. But that led me to the biggest critical part, and that was organizing my files at home. So now I have a file drawer of every creditor and every company. I have all my leases and all my agreements. I have them all filed in drawers. I haven't done that in so long, because you get a bill in, you just kind of throw the bill over there, and then you get another bill and you just throw another bill over there, and then you just pay it. Then that one, you shred it up and it goes in the trash. I started organizing, and it's kind of a good feeling, to be honest with you. It really is.
Back to Blair's original question about credit repair. I think this thing is broad age-wise. People who have not paid attention to things are realizing, what do I want for my kids? What do I want for my family? They're not going out and having happy hour every night because they can't. Probably doing a lot less drinking or more at home. I don't know. But anyway, I think people of all ages are starting to realize life isn't forever. Even people my age are dying here. And I can't control it other than follow procedures. And so I think we're going to see more credit repair. I think we're going to see more things like, Tom and Mark were talking about there just now. But you got to remember, again, I always go back to this. You guys are the top 10% of the economy. I know you're probably not billionaires, but 80% of this country is living on the edge.
Well, Blair is a billionaire.
Those are the people. They're not going through their finances all the time. They're not checking their credit all the time. They're not getting their house in order all the time. That's why their house is out of order. So hopefully, 5 or 10%, maybe 3% of those people are going to come out and go, I want to make a change in my life. Thus, the credit repair thing they'll take serious this time. Many of them have been exposed to it, had a bad experience. Just about everybody will tell you credit repair can be a horrible experience. You pay a lot of money and get no results. Well, now maybe they're going to get serious about it. Shows like this, talking about credit repair and actually having the people you can call to get you somebody that can do a hell of a good job on credit repair, that's a start. But in general, I think it's easy for us to talk about us because we know us, but the people out there, they're on the edge, man. This is close to not good at all with this economy. It's really bad. So there's a lot of inflection, looking at yourself is what I'm trying to say. A lot of that going on right now.
Self-evaluation.
I think it's easier for older people to do that, but I think the younger people now have an opportunity, just like after 9/11. Things changed after 9/11 for 2 or 3 years. So, that said, I think some serious changes are going on. We're not going to be real estate lending and learning as we were before. It's all changing. And I heard something as far as real estate that, there's some big powers in the real estate industry that are happy about this and are trying to take it to a different level with a different means of doing business. And I ain't ready to say yet exactly what I'm talking about, but it's scary to me. And there's going to be some change going on with all of our industries. Mark, you're in a good spot. This is a big deal right now, all this video stuff. And it's going to continue to be, and it's just going to grow. Teaching, I'm sure Tom is always going to have, teaching to do. I think, Blair's job and my job is changing quickly. And, I don't know what that entails, but that's my 2 cents on it now that you can hear me. I just think people in general, the 80% that are on the edge, and I think it might even be higher.
He speaks.
They're scared, and I think they're looking at, I got to try harder, or I got to do something different, and that's what I'm hoping.
Well, I'm thinking a lot of people are going to look at how to do things different. And yes, David Tanner, my office is a mess. I appreciate the text and letting me know that. I will try to clean it up, but I doubt I will do that. I used to have a banner behind me so I could hide that. But guys, one of the things, several solutions that people were used to have gone away. Non-QM guidelines are tightening up dramatically. But as we talk about saving, preparing for the future, Alan, you talk about change, making change. Self-evaluation right now is a big part. What do you want to do? How do you want to go about it? What do you want to achieve? What drives you guys? What gives you the notion to stay up and teach and prepare and, my goodness, have a whiteboard available? And for you, Alan, how to stay connected with your potential clients past. Mark, you don't have to get up every morning. You don't have to go to bed, but there's something that drives you to still maintain these relationships and produce and develop and have this radio station that is making an impact. What are those things that drive you for that, to help people? For me, it's purely, I love every morning getting up. Who am I going to be able to impact a life? Whether it's a credit, whether it's buying a home, or moving the ball forward for somebody to effectively reach a goal. That's what drives me. What drives you guys?
Well, I think for me, it's helping people. It's being a servant to others. It's what I've been doing all my life. And I understand the broadcast market. I understand the industry and what it does and what it can entail to connect people. There's an interesting part of your life changes when you think about what you were 15, 20 years ago and where you are today. And if I look back 30 years ago, I can honestly say that connecting with people, I was more of an introvert. I didn't mind talking to them, and I connected with my friends, but new people, that wasn't happening. Somehow or another, I got connected with people and became the extrovert. And I'm kind of that hybrid because, I'm kind of here and I'm not what's the word that they're calling it nowadays? What's the word you call it? You're staying at home and never getting out in public. There's
social distancing.
Well, that's one word. That's two words. But no, that's close, but that's not
a hoarder.
No, a hermit. A hoarder. I just got through saying I'm decluttering. You're telling me
Mark.
Okay, what we learned is Mark's a hoarder.
Mark's a hoarder. Woo!
I don't know. Yeah. I want to know how Mark doesn't have to get up in the morning and he doesn't have to go to bed at night. I want to know that, what Blair said earlier. So
well, I actually do have to go to bed. I do have to get some sleep, but instead of me getting 5 hours of sleep, I'm sleeping probably 6 or 7.
Good for you.
So it's a little bit more. I'll tell you the most guilty part is I've honestly not taken a break. And so I do feel guilty at times when I'm just sitting there going, wow, I'm not making any money for the 5 minutes. I'm not talking to nobody. I'm not calling anybody. What am I doing? And my wife will finally look at me, and I said it 2 days in a row. And she came up to me and she goes, I don't want to hear those words come out of your mouth again. There's dishes in the sink that you can go clean from breakfast this morning. The house has to be vacuumed. And I'm like, that's not what I was talking about. She goes, well, that's what I'm talking about. So I keep my mouth shut. But at the end of the day, I think driving me is just being a servant to others. I know a lot of people need help. I've known a lot of people in the service industry, waiters and waitresses and bartenders need help. And I've been talking to them and connecting with them. And I started to realize that the biggest part is this virtual world and connecting people and being that servant to be able to say, hey, Alan, I'm going to introduce you to somebody.
Yeah, that's a blessing that you have, and you're good at it. And that's gonna be a great thing going forward. You're right at almost like the beginning of a monster hill here. But I always have preached health is wealth, and have fun, make money. I've never been that guy that wants to be the richest realtor or the richest homeowner or the biggest house or the nicest car. And I don't think because you have a lot more money than me, you're more happy or anything like that. So this has been relatively easy for me. Not financially, it's not been great. I mean, I'm not making near what I usually make, but I see it coming once we get through this. So it has helped me, I guess, be true to myself. As long as I'm healthy, I'm not worried about the rest of it. My daughter is going through it. She has COVID. She lives in New York City. That's a concern. And she's doing pretty well. So when your kid is sick, it puts things in perspective. And we were scared there for quite a while. She's coming out of it nicely. Low energy, but none of the other symptoms anymore. So that's good. So, health is wealth. And you take that 5 minutes, that 10 minutes to do the dishes, Mark. It's good for you. Play with the dog. Have that pale ale that they make up there where you live. And, enjoy a few minutes, and you'll be that much better at what you really are good at. And you really are good at this. So, keep that going. And that's just how I'm looking at it. I'll never get in a bad mood. I just don't. I don't believe in it. And, it's leave people better in the way you found them. I don't think that's necessarily the gospel and the way Jesus intended things when he was down here walking around. But, I do believe there's something to leaving people better than the way you found them every day. And right now there's the three of us and who's ever listening or watching, and hopefully they're better after this conversation. And that's just a good thing.
I agree. Tom, your wife put you away and put you in your little room and work all day. I mean, how are you seeing your world change? What motivates you to get up and do that effectively?
Well, the thing I've always seen myself in a position to do is, and to be honest with, is that I have a lot of life experiences and those types of things. And my life has been I've had ups and downs, had bad times. I've gone through the same financial situation that you went through, Blair. And so for me at this juncture, what I want to do is try to share with people, and my commitment to people is that I've had these experiences, learn from my mistakes. And so that's the one message that I get to carry to my students on a regular basis. When I have 50, 100 students in my classes, I want them to feel like that I'm engaging them because I've had the opportunity to survive and do well and be blessed in my lifetime many, many times over. Not only with decent health, but with great kids, and their health is there. And again, Alan, I see lots of people saying, as far as their prayers for your daughter, we all have been sharing those as far as our dinner table is concerned. So
thank you, Tom.
But it also gives me the
By the way, the prayers are being heard and they're working.
How about that? That's a bravo thumbs up for sure. But on the flip side of that, I also have a responsibility to my community here in Coppell through my school board and my service there to make sure that those kids, I realized my senior year in high school, how much I still remember it to this day.
You can remember that far back?
You would think, and we used to do our test on stone tablets.
Yeah.
But we really.
You're a good-looking young man, personally.
Yeah, I opened the door here. But I was excited, and in my senior year, we started doing tests on papyrus, and we got that purple paper we could put between the sheets of papyrus, and so
Flintstones, meet the Flintstones.
pretty much. You should have seen my first car. It looked like the Fred Flintstone's car. But anyway, I know how tough these kids that can be to miss this period in their life, this event, and trying to make that special, trying to make that something. And I've heard from lots of parents, my kid's not going to get to walk across the stage. That's just the reality of what's happened. We're not going to be able to do that. We're not going to be able to put 4,000, 5,000 people in an auditorium and run the risks that are tied to it. Much less do we want a kid walking out that ends up passing away because of us being way too aggressive with regards to their health. So, there's a responsibility there for us as parents, but I see that in my community. And so much we want to do things, and we've done a lot of special online things. I love David Tanner's comment a little bit earlier. I mean, the reality of our kids is they probably are getting through this better than we are, just simply because they're used to this type of environment. They spend more time in front of their computer than we do. They know how to operate and get things fixed. And, my daughter comes in, Dad, it's just this. And, and 2 seconds later, she's fixed something. So it's just one of those blessings in our lives that we've actually set ourselves up for this transition. I think this moves the curve, like Alan was talking a little bit earlier. I think it moves us through certain things faster than perhaps we would have done societally speaking. It's going to move us to that next step, and we'll see these changes as a result. But that we had already planted the seed to make it possible.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be so cool back in the day if we'd have had this nice break? I'd have been hunting and fishing every day, out in the woods, wouldn't have to worry.
I would have never gone back.
Enjoying.
I quit.
I understand. I feel the same.
Tom, I have a quick question for you.
Yes, sir.
Keep your marbles in your bag of marbles? I
kept my marbles in my bag of marbles. I've actually got, and the funny thing is, I think I've talked with just about every high school friend that I had through college that I have up till now over the last 2 weeks, except Gary and Chris. But other than those two, we've all touched base with each other. How are you doing? One's a doctor down in Austin. He's one of my better friends. And, it's nice to get that perspective from his perspective. He's an older person. Steve, are you going in and seeing patients? He's doing it all remote like this. And he knows how high risk that is for people to come in that are being with other sick people, how easily this spreads and how dangerous that can be for our elderly friends.
And real quick, back to what you were talking about earlier, Blair, it on how things are changing, and just think how important now, just like after 9/11, look at the value we're putting on the people Tom was just talking about, teachers. We're putting value on teachers. We're putting value on first responders, nurses, doctors. We're putting value on, the hospitals and all the right things we're putting value on. And how long would that last versus Hollywood and celebrity and sports media and 24-hour news media? And, I think this helps us focus on what really is important in life. And those people have no industry without us as clients and sponsors and buying the sponsored goods. And right now, without nurses and doctors, oh my God, the National Guard, and without truck drivers and without teachers, we as a society, and they're so underpaid, the majority of them, compared to the people the talking heads who really don't care about us. None of them do. They care about ratings and money, and that's their job. But, it's funny how our values change when we go through this. And as you know, that's what I love. Another point, I love what Mark does. Everybody has a format in this situation. We can all talk. We can all say what we're thinking. The real people can be on radio or television or, these podcasts or whatever. And I love that.
Well, I will, my small 2 cents worth is, I think this is getting back to the family grouping, having sit down dinner together, sometimes turning technology off or letting parents see what teachers are going through. Like you said, bringing the priorities of truckers, of nurses, of doctors, not politicians and celebrities and athletes. I just see a greater priority and truly, like Tom says, now I can't go back to my high school, and I don't think anybody really cares about college either. No, I was such a royal prick at those times anyway, self-centeredness. But now who really cares about you? Who's checking in on you? Who's touching base with you, thinking about you? Learning these skills of being true and being transparent as opposed to the facade that so many people put up. I think we learn about those things and about, like you said, Alan, about ourselves.
That's the point.
I'll share real quick, and I know we're running out of time here, but real quick, I'm a divorcee. I've got two wonderful daughters that born here in Texas, but a lot of their life has grown up in Italy, and one of them now lives in San Diego. Well, I just found out last night that she, for 2.5 weeks, had COVID and was hospitalized and is now out. And we had a great sharing time last night and a great connection time. Now, my other daughter lives in Rome, Italy, and just think the world of her at 25 now this year. And, being able to try to connect, being able to meet up or get going with them, you do realize who's important and who is not. It's funny, I've been able to last without the NBA. Now, if I had it readily available, I would have said, that's my primary sport, but I have been able to live without the NBA.
Well, just think of this real quick. And bless Kobe Bryant and his family's heart. And, great guy, influenced a lot of people, one of the best players we ever saw. For 4 weeks, that's all the media could talk about. Look now. How important, have you heard Kobe Bryant's name in the last 4 weeks? So what's real and what isn't? I mean, again, he's a family man, and you hate anything to happen to anybody like that, rich, poor, indifferent, celebrity, or whatever. But my point is, what this media feeds the masses, and the masses suck it in. And I think these times, 9/11, COVID-19, 2020, are times people reflect and go, gosh, that was so silly. What are we thinking?
Well, here's a question for you guys. Now, we all grew up and we know, and in fact, several of us are baby boomers. What is this generation going to be about? What is this generation going to be called in the future, 9 months from now?
Right now, they're calling baby hammers.
Yeah, that's not going to fly.
Plenty of time for making babies.
That's 9 months from now or 8 months from now.
Yeah,
what are we going to be called?
I'm asking. This generation is going to grow up and it's going to have its title. We've had the millennial, we've had the Gen Xers, we've had the baby boomers, but there's going to be a generation called from this situation to something. And
Covidials.
COVID.
I see a lot of memes and cartoons where it was like, Dad, so how was it like to live through the great coronavirus? And then there's all kinds of memes and questions and answers, and kids come back and go, Dad, that must have been really cool. And then father's like, yeah, no.
I heard my mother-in-law, who's, I want to say she's 82 or something, and we were having a nice discussion about this, and she's fine, she's healthy, bless her heart. But she was going, oh my gosh, when my kids got chicken pox, we were like, yeah, good. Let's get it over with. And They didn't have, I mean, they had penicillin back then, but that was about it. And it's funny how you're talking about how are they going to be remembered. You know, the people before the baby boomers, the people that created the baby boomers, totally think
Great
baby
generation.
boomers, they're spoiled rotten, had it made, you know, all of us, you know, and now we think the kids today, and they are, you know, gosh, I have a millennial. She wanted for nothing. Just telling you. I mean, she had chores, and I thought I was kind of daddy every now and then, but compared to us, so the generation's a great question, Blair. I love that Covial 19 too, that or Covials or whatever they are. That's awesome.
Convivials. I think
Yeah,
that'll work out.
Let's get it right.
We'll call this a convivial show. Hey guys, it has been a blessing to talk with you. It's been a blessing for those that have joined us. The market, we are going to survive this. We are going to come out of this, I think, better if we look at ourselves and figure out what we could do better. Not worry about everyone else's faults, not worry about everyone else's issues, but worry about where we can grow and we can save money. We can repair our credit. We can ultimately have a home, right size, downsize, or whatever your efforts are trying to do. We here at Welcome Home Radio, we're here for real estate lending and learning. We want you to understand it. Ask your questions. Be back next week with us Wednesdays at noon. All of us should be here because we're pretty much locked up in our own little worlds and our own little home. But hey, thank you so much. God bless. I'm Blair Thomas.
I'm Tom Holm. Remember to tip your delivery person.
I'm Alan Pace, and I'm going to tip you, Tom, right after the show's over.
And Mark.
And I'm Mark Warner, a great steward of Michigan.
Amen. God bless. Have a great rest of your day.
Go Upper Peninsula.